It's all yours.
Great. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kathleen McMahon. I am the Executive Vice President for Development and Communications at Northern Virginia Family Services. We're the largest human services provider across the Northern Virginia region. I am a born and raised in Arlington, grew up off Military Road, and my parents are still in the area. So it's really nice to be connected to this community. And actually, now I just got a text from my mom. She also has been a driver with you all because I was like, why is this familiar? So I love the connections, and it's a real honor to support work that supports our community, and it's wonderful to see how engaged and how many offerings you all have. We have a really generous community of supporters in our region, in my role, I have the privilege of communicating and kind of being an ambassador for the needs in our community, and also connecting folks with volunteer opportunities, fundraising opportunities, and I also lead all of the marketing communications for our organization. So I have a presentation prepared that I'll share in just a minute, but please know that please interrupt me at any time if you have any questions or curiosities. I want to make sure that we're tailoring this to your interests, and there are so many different directions we could go. So with that, I will kick off and share my screen. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
Great. So, who we are, NVFS, we were founded in 1924 in the city of Alexandria. We began handing out coal and coats during the cold winter months. It was our understanding that a group of neighborhood volunteers came together and saw needs in the community and how can they help their neighbor. And I'll tell you that that thread still very much resonates today. We evolved to meet the ever-changing needs of our community, but we're not handing out coal, but we're paying utility bills and we're connecting people with coats and food and all of the resources that they need to thrive. Um,
Kathleen, you might want to switch to slideshow mode.
oh, I thought I did. Okay, let me do that.
So
Thank
from
you.
the left there, yeah.
There we go. Thank you so much. Um, we reach about 40,000 folks a year across the region, and we do that in a number of ways. We'll go through the different programs that we have, but that's 40,000 different ways that we can help people get to a thriving future. We work alongside individuals and families to get from crisis to stability. And that's not a linear path. Poverty looks different for everyone. Anyone, particularly in this region, is one or two paychecks away from a crisis, and that happens more often than I think we realize. In when we perhaps see the different affluent areas and the different pockets, it's a bit different here, but it's still very much there. So I'll go through a little bit of where we are. So as I mentioned, we serve all the counties surrounding the Northern Virginia community, including the cities of Alexandria, Falls Church, Manassas Park. Our typical client profile, um, you know, folks that are below the poverty line, are uninsured, um, different family situations, single parent, a lot of, you know, living with grandparents, and there's not one single typical profile. 66% are female. I would say right now, the majority, about 60 to 70% of our clients are foreign born. That is, we're meeting the needs of our immigrant neighbors in our community, but also depending on the service area, meeting the needs of folks across the region. We cover a broad scope, and I can go into some detail about the spectrum of our services, but really working alongside families to get from, crisis to stability. So we start with um, intervention, prevention programs. We have a Healthy Families program, which is supporting parents to form healthy bonds and attachments with their children. It's also helping to provide mental health support, moms who, particularly immigrant moms who may not have the social networks that they would have otherwise have, or family members nearby. Helping to mitigate things like postpartum depression, or helping to create awareness on how to take care of a child and a baby, and they may be disconnected. This is a really effective national home visiting program, and we're really proud that we implement this not just in Arlington, but across all jurisdictions in the Northern Virginia region. And so at its core, it's helping to create healthy bonds, but it's also a huge diversion for child abuse prevention, and making sure that kids are connected to their developmental milestones, connected to a medical home, that they're regularly getting all of the health services that they would need. We also run early childhood programs across the region. In Arlington, we run 3 centers, one on Glebe Road, South Glebe, one in Vermont, our Vermont centers near Ballston, and we also have classrooms at Arlington Mill. And these are, Head Start and early Head Start classrooms. We supplement kind of this federal program by rounding it out, making it a full day, year-long program, so we can support working parents and getting them into stable lives with reduced cost, high quality childhood education. I touched a little bit on our child and family well-being programs. We run CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, for Arlington and Alexandria, as well as family strengthening programs across our jurisdictions. These CASA in particular, they're the eyes and ears of the court for children who are experiencing cases of child abuse and neglect. This has been a complement to our service area. We merged with another organization about a year ago. And I will say that, this is a very intensive volunteering opportunity. We recruit volunteers who are working with families, and with their focus is on the children who are embedded in these cases, and making sure that the child's interests are first and foremost covered. We also operate youth programs. So in Arlington, and in other jurisdictions around the area, we're in schools, we're in community, helping young people, divert them away from gang-related activity, helping them form healthy bonds within their peer group, with their families. We serve a large population of unaccompanied youth who, in supporting with family reunification efforts. So think about an immigrant household where the parents might have been here in the region for several years, and the kids have been separated. Perhaps they're back in their home country, and then they come together. And how do you help to build those bridges and build those bonds? There's a lot of trauma and a lot of support that these families need, and not just helping the kids, but also helping the parents connect with with their child or with the adult that is supervising them. And it's in it the idea is that we are also diverting them away from as drastic as, gang related activity. These kids particularly are more susceptible for human trafficking and other adverse outcomes. And so creating those healthy supports and meeting kids in community where they are, either at their schools, at a community shelter, in their homes. We cover a wide range of needs to meet young people where they are and help them get on a track to healthy path for their adulthood. We also do anti-hunger work across the region. We have a hunger resource center in Manassas where we're serving 600 to 700 families a month, but we're also connecting all of our families to food resources throughout the region. So we collect food year round. We have pantries at our different sites. We also are providing nutritious meals for kids in our early childhood programs. But these basic needs that are core to a healthy foundation, we look to implement that. We also have homeless services. We have a 90-bed family shelter in Manassas on our SURF campus, where our Hunger Resource Center is located as well. That is a low barrier shelter, so more than half of our residents at the shelter are children, and we take quite a lot of care in the trauma-informed approach, um, in trying to support the mental and physical and emotional needs of families who are experiencing the crisis of homelessness, and helping to wrap around as much supports as we can by working with schools, working with they're called McKinney-Vento liaisons in the schools, and also making sure that parents, helping them navigate a path towards getting jobs and being able to secure stable housing. The length of stay since COVID in our shelter has extended. It's about 90 days on average now, though we are there to serve and support as long as folks need. An interesting trend that we're seeing in our shelter is seniors. That there are consistently a group. We have beds for families, and we also have beds for singles. And we have a subset of seniors who have no income, have no family relationships, and so, are trapped in this cycle of bouncing between the hospital to the shelter, back to the hospital to shelter. There may be severe physical ailments, there may be severe mental illness. And so we continue to support and serve, but we're thinking how might we're creating partnerships to get CNAs to come in and support the well-being and the needs that our seniors are facing. And particularly in Prince William County, there isn't enough of a safety net to support these folks. There aren't beds at rehabs and things like that. So that is an emerging need that I wanted to note that I thought might be of interest to you all. We do a series of health programs. We connect people to Medicaid. We help with enrollment, with benefits. We have prescription access programs that save millions of dollars for our clients every year, helping to manage chronic illnesses, getting free or reduced prescriptions, connecting children to medical homes, to free dental care. And we also have community health workers that are in community, and helping to support that. Even we're piloting programs in our workforce development program where economic mobility is the key. We're helping folks get into salaried benefited positions and helping them understand, the healthcare options available to them. If they've never had employer-sponsored healthcare, for example, how do you navigate that? And so we have these experts that we also are able to deploy, which is great. We do community housing programs, which is connected to our homeless service, diversion efforts, helping people stay in their home, either by paying utility bills or supporting rent, and working with our community partners. Particularly in Fairfax, a lot of this work is happening, as well as Prince William. We have affordable rental units that we manage as well. Um, we have a unique we have a unique model at our Multicultural Center for Trauma and Recovery. This is it's right off 50 in Falls Church, and it's a trifecta of case management support for as well as immigrant legal services and mental health. So we are dealing with a lot of clients who are victims of trauma and torture. They may have been political prisoners in other countries. They, have, different levels of, interactions with domestic violence and other needs. And so we have a very unique skill set. We're delivering mental health supports in 12 different languages. And if you can imagine, particularly in immigrant communities, the idea of therapy or behavioral health doesn't always translate. So being able to talk to someone in your native language and who can understand the cultural sensitivities that you're experiencing is really life-changing. And it's a very unique model that we have, that not only are we meeting the mental needs, but we're also, with our case management, we're connecting them to housing resources, food resources, all of the basic needs, and then also being able to navigate, are there other areas within the NVFS spectrum of programs or with our community service board partners or other areas in the community, how can we get them connected so they can be stable? Our immigrant legal services, we're helping folks get visas so they can work. And that they can maintain their residency. As you can imagine, that there's a long wait list for those services. We're not taking any new clients at this time because there's a backlog. Immigrant legal cases take quite some time to get through. But it's a really unique program for survivors of trauma and torture and domestic violence. And yeah, we're really proud of that. We also do.
Kathleen, how many people work for NVFS, and what's the mix of paid employees and
Yeah.
volunteers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, I should have led with that. We're about almost 400 staff, um, and we engage over 2,000 volunteers a year. Volunteers are really a critical part to our service delivery system. So that's anything from driving in to pick up food at our Hunger Resource Center and helping to distribute food to clients. We have volunteer opportunities in the shelter. We have, groups that provide meals to our shelter guests on the weekends, every weekend. We also engage skills-based volunteers to help navigate some of the program questions that we have. We worked with volunteers at Lowe's to help, update our facilities. I mean, there's so many different ways that volunteers contribute to our work. But yeah, so it's pretty remarkable that we're able to have the reach we do with a little less than 400 staff. Yeah.
How do you fund all this?
Yeah, that is a great question. We it's a this about 70% of our work is publicly funded, so a combination of federal, state, and local dollars. I lead all of the private philanthropy for our organization, so we receive dollars from individuals, from foundations, corporations. And we do have some earned revenue. We have a thrift store in Falls Church, for example, and all of the revenue from that venture hits the bottom line to support our programs. A lot of these private resources help kind of fill the gaps of what government contracts don't cover, things like, cost of living increases, or we may be limited in not being able to cover full benefits for our employees. And so some of the private resources help fill those gaps so we can do things like in our early childhood program offer year-round services, because we know that that is what parents need in order to take advantage of high quality healthcare or early childhood education. So yeah.
Now you've mentioned a number of services that seem like you've got to have professionals do
Mhm.
them. Do you have lawyers volunteering for pro bono work? And what about other specialists like doctors and dentists and counselors and all of these people?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have pro bono counsel for our organization and within certain areas. Immigrant legal cases, because they take so long, we haven't been able to develop a pro bono program there because you have to stay with the cases for sometimes years. And yes, we have a volunteer at our multicultural center who is a therapist who helps see some of our domestic violence victims and providing supports. And because of her efforts, we're able to get through our wait list and serve that many more people. We also employ therapists. We employ specialties. So yeah, our skills-based volunteers are really essential.
Are you connected at all to Meals on Wheels?
That's a resource that we certainly refer folks to. We have a limited, since COVID, we've been delivering meals in the Manassas area to clients for at our Hunger Resource Center to get them into it. But yeah, that's certainly one of our referrals where to support our seniors. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's all
Wonderful.
the questions for now.
Okay, great, great. And I can go through this pretty quickly in terms of how we do our work. If we think about it on kind of a spectrum, the transactional, transitional, transformational, providing basic needs like food supports, making sure people are safely housed, making sure that the experience of homelessness is brief, and not repeated. That is the first step towards crisis to stability. As I mentioned, we do comprehensive health and well-being supports. I talked about the Multicultural Center, and all of the different health services to help mitigate and promote, well-being of our clients. And we have our full spectrum of supporting children. That really is an anchor. That is where we focus too in terms of how can we be upstream in terms of breaking multi-generational cycles of poverty. So I talked about our Healthy Families program, starting from home visiting programs through early childhood programs, helping to prevent child abuse and neglect, and then the mental health supports for our young teenagers and young adults. And then we have a particular expertise and focus around workforce development. We have an entrepreneurship program where we're working alongside clients who are launching businesses, helping them, find the permitting and develop their business plan and supporting them on their journey for entrepreneurship. Some of, Arepa Zone that, you may have seen their food truck outside of Ballston. That was one of the businesses that we supported. And it's been wonderful to kind of see how it's transformed. We have lots of different examples of that. We also have a signature program called Training Futures, where we engage a lot of great volunteers as well. So that if there are folks here that might be interested in that, where we're helping our trainees get from perhaps it's gig work, hourly work into benefited salaried positions. And that really that's where the transformational piece comes in. That changes the trajectory. If you can have benefits, if you can have a salary, if you can have one job. Many of the folks that we support are immigrants. So part of it is also adjusting to American business culture and what that looks like, helping to prepare resumes, helping to build the soft skills that you need to be successful in a business environment. And then there's a rich alumni program where folks can keep coming back and getting support. And so we engage, speech therapists as volunteers to help with articulation and improving their English. We also have volunteers who do resume review and mock interviews and that coaching. So it's a really dynamic program that we're really proud of and has been recognized. We're coming up on 30 years of doing that. So. And then we also do community inreach where we are going into communities. We are working alongside neighbors to help them identify what are the needs that they see in their community and how might they develop the leadership skills to advocate on behalf of their communities. So we've been going through a leadership cohort where we're helping train cohorts of leaders who are, advocating around public health and housing and how do they identify the needs. But this is about being in community with people and then connecting them to the opportunities. A lot of what we do connects either to services that we have, but we're so embedded in the communities that it's also what is that warm handoff to other organizations that we partner with. And then here's a few of our highlights. We're connecting people with food. We're connecting. When our families are leaving our shelter, they're not re-entering is what we strive for. And so we have housing navigators, career navigators to help support and create that stability. And what does that web of support look like so the experience of homelessness isn't repeated? As I said, almost $10 million last year in the value of the free or reduced prescriptions that we're able to connect folks with in the community. And then, helping our young people transition to kindergarten. As I'm sure you all know, that is one of the core indicators, being kindergarten ready, third grade reading scores, and ninth grade transition really sets the trajectory of whether or not the economic outcomes and well-being outcomes for young people. So we're really proud of the good work that we're doing in that area, and as well as our workforce development program, helping folks increase their wages, increase their opportunity. It's powerful to see, and it's powerful to see the word of mouth and how many folks come to us saying, "Oh, I heard my cousin did this or my neighbor did that," and that's still such a powerful way that folks are finding us in community. So,
Kathleen, do you publish more detailed reports on these kinds of things? We got a question here from somebody that would love to see reports with goals, metrics, other measurements, analysis, that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
our annual report is on our website, but happy to follow up if there are specifics. And yeah, I have information on specific programs. I have information by jurisdiction if you're interested in that. So yeah, I'd be happy to share that. Thank you.
Okay.
Great questions. Um, and then let's see. And then the different ways that, we get involved. I mean, as I said, it's an honor to kind of be an ambassador for this mission, and we do our work with the support of the community. We have lots of different volunteer opportunities, reading with kids in our early childhood programs, volunteering at our thrift store, and a lot of them can be done in groups too. So if there's, an A and V, group that would like to come out and volunteer at one of our sites, I'd love to connect you with that. We also do drives throughout the year. So these are collecting in-kind goods, things like items that we provide all of the families that register that are being served in our program. So thousands of families register for fully packed backpacks for their kids every year. We provide food packages and gift cards and toys at the end of the year so families can offset their holiday costs. And that's also a great kind of group activity of collecting those items. We have signature events as well. And just building our awareness in the community. So yeah, thank you. Wonderful.
Okay. Now, are there other organizations like yours in other parts of the country, and do you guys interface with each other? Is there a national convention or an umbrella group that?
That's a great question. We are we connect with a lot of organizations across our region. Our internal slogan is serve locally, inspire nationally. So there's not a national program. We really did start as a small volunteer run group in 1924, and through a series of mergers um, and and just program acquisition through the years, we've become the largest human services provider in the region. But we work very closely with our government partners, with community services boards, with Colmore Clinic, Arlington Free Clinic, you name it, we probably have a connection. We work with all of the different school systems. We're deepening some training in Fairfax. In Prince William, we did an in-service for all of the teachers in Prince William County on understanding trauma and the impact that that has on supporting immigrant students. So, in addition to the direct service we do, we also are educating and training the trainers in the community and reaching police officers and teachers. And we couldn't do our work without those partnerships and connections.
A question, are most of your volunteers bilingual, and do you have to be bilingual to volunteer?
No, absolutely not. It's a plus. I mean, for those that do speak other languages, but no, we it's certainly not a requirement. And yeah, so we have so many different kinds of volunteer opportunities. We have a group they call themselves the Abuelas, that go to our Arlington Mills site, and it's a group of grandmothers that read and read in Spanish to our kids because to teach them Spanish or to connect with the Spanish speaking students that are in that. So there are a lot of different unique ways that folks show up, but yeah, language is not it's not a requirement. Um, yeah. And I see the question about government layoffs and in ICE. The in terms of the government layoffs and the uh, we haven't seen that hasn't necessarily impacted our work, but it impacts our community, right? That um, puts stress on the system and puts, the mental health impacts of that are really felt. When we've had government shutdowns, we always see an increase in folks seeking perhaps our rental assistance or utility assistance, or we see more families showing up at our hunger resource center. And so we have been seeing that over the past year. Our fortunately within our contracts, we haven't lost funding like some of our, organizations that are doing like international aid work, for example. We haven't lost any of those contracts. Our largest federal contract is Head Start and Early Head Start, and that's still very much supported. I'll say that the ICE and the immigration environment that we are in right now, it has created a really high level of fear in our community, and that is very prevalent and felt. I'll say that, we have not seen a decline in clients seeking supports, and that speaks to the nature of us being a trusted entity in community, where a lot of folks are not going to jobs, they're not seeking services. We worry when fear levels rise and folks aren't seeking services. We see instances of domestic violence increase, substance use, mental health decline. And so we continue to serve our populations and to be a trusted resource. And I'm very proud of that, right? We've done a lot to establish trust within communities, and the fact that we haven't seen a drop off really speaks to the incredible work that my colleagues do. But there's just a heightened level of fear, and many of our staff themselves have lived experience, particularly with immigration. So, we talk about secondary trauma in our work where, you're supporting people who are going through trauma, who are going through crisis, but then you might be going home and feeling and experiencing the same thing with your own family members. And so we take a lot of care in how we support our staff and how we do things we call reflective supervision, that making sure that the well-being of our staff, it's not a nice to have, it's a need to have, and that they are okay, and we have incredible systems of support in place. And so we see that heightened more in times like this. Yeah.
Where is your thrift store in Falls Church, and what kinds of donations are they looking for?
Yeah, thank you. Our thrift store is off Annandale Road, so right between kind of 50 and 29. And we accept everything. I mean, folks shop there to look for home goods, records, books. We have, furniture that folks come particularly to look for our homewares, but also, you know, we take kids' clothes, shoes, books, records. It's kind of it's a neat hodgepodge of things, and by donating, you can get a receipt and for your contribution. But also shopping there, there are folks that are on a budget who are shopping there, but there's also an environmental, eco-friendly, group of shoppers that are committed to thrifting, and so it's a really neat kind of intersection of that. That's some of my favorite volunteer days that I do within the organization is, organizing the jewelry shelf and and helping to design that. So it's a fun group outing. I took my team a couple months ago to volunteer. So yeah,
Can
we take
you
it.
tell us a little bit about your own background and how you ended up doing what you're doing?
Sure, sure. Happy to. So as I said, born and raised in Arlington, did a lot of community service throughout high school and college, and I'm kind of one of the um, I just knew since I was 18 that I would work in nonprofits, and that's where all of kind of a lot of my work experience laid. I studied abroad and I lived abroad teaching English in Thailand for a year. And when I moved back to the area, I started working at a national service organization and then did a lot of work in dropout prevention and recovery with young people nationally and locally in DC. And that's where I fell in love with fundraising and communications of just how to create partnerships and reach out to folks to support the different missions. And so I did that for a number of years. I studied nonprofit leadership at Penn for my master's, and then have worked at local organizations. I worked at a policy shop for about 5 years, or working at the 30,000 foot view of, what I was seeing on the ground. And so the impacts of national service, the impacts of helping young people get to our national goal around a 90% high school graduation rate. So I've had a lot of different experiences in and around this. I would say NVFS has been such a wonderful place for me, where it's the intersection of so many of my interests, but I'm also serving the community where I'm also raising my family. I'm proud to have three beautiful girls, and my parents are still in the area. My brother's in the area, so this feels like just a wonderful way to the complexity and the scope and the depth and breadth of what we do at NVFS is really vast. And so it's working at a scale that feels really challenging and exciting. But it's also, we're really local and we're also supporting the families where we're raising it. And so, yeah, I've been here I just celebrated 7 years at NVFS. So, yeah.
Okay, next question. Would the thrift store take things like nebulizers and blood pressure monitors and other medical related equipment?
That's a great question. I can check. I am not sure, but I can check, and I can also check with our health programs if that's something that we could distribute. So, Stephen, thank you for your note. I'll make a note of that and ask.
Okay, yeah, I'd also be interested to know about things like crutches and walkers and things like
Yeah,
that that people may need temporarily and then want
yeah,
to pass them along.
absolutely. No, I mean perhaps at our shelter too, because we do think about we do have those donations on end, strollers for the families, but also for our seniors. So thank you. I will look into that, and I can get back to you all on that.
You mentioned the large breadth and scope of the programs you've got. Are there any that you're excited about starting up that are still in the planning stages?
That's a great question. In terms of starting new programs, um, we definitely have ideas. I think what I'm most excited about is um, how might we more deeply integrate our services? We talk about there being no wrong door to come into NVFS for support. So if you come to our Hunger Resource Center for food, we would have an intaking process that would identify, do you need to be connected to job resources? Does your child need access to childcare? And that is a focus of within the clients that we're serving, how might we more deeply connect our resources or other community resources to support the whole family and the whole need. And that's happening. It's currently happening, but I think what I'm most excited about is looking at how we might, expand that. And so I'm excited about the potential for modeling out a navigation function within our organization where folks are working with clients to identify what is the best door for them and how might we support that. A lot of that, depending on where they come into the organization, may not understand the full scope of what we do. And so we're looking to pilot and launch some dedicated staff that would help connect folks to things like benefits, to our programs, to community resources. And so building that out is such a need. We try to move beyond the silos that we might create and look at what does the whole ecosystem of the family need. And that requires more intensive support that something like a government contract that's saying distribute this direct assistance to this population needs. Well, if Fairfax tells us serve people with purple hair doing this work, we also know that people with yellow hair in Loudoun also need that services. So we're trying to lift up as many of those barriers, and that's really kind of the strategic opportunity that I see. So, oh, thanks, Steve, for dropping that in the chat, the address for the thrift store. Yeah.
Now, you guys already cover a pretty sizable geographical area. Do you have any thoughts or plans about expanding out into kind of the next layer of counties further out?
We don't right now. I think, meeting the needs within our existing footprint is really a focus. We wouldn't want to dilute the services that we're currently providing, though. We've talked on and off for years of, do we extend into DC? Do we, or Maryland? And while we can serve clients in those areas, should they, seek our services? I think we feel good about our footprint and how do we deepen our footprint within the existing areas. And so Loudon, for example, we've been working there for 20, 30 years. And now we're about to open a new childcare facility in that community. And so how do we connect additional supports? That's a new area that we're working within. So yeah.
How do people get to you guys? Do you have shuttles that you can pick people up, or is it up to them to find, a bus route or whatever else they need to get to you?
Yeah. Well, we have a number of mechanisms. I mean, some of it is coming to our facilities, but I think the gift of COVID is that we also are looking for ways to meet folks where they are. So we do have home visiting programs. We even have home visiting early childhood programs where parents might not be able to get their kids to a preschool classroom. So we're bringing home visitors who are helping to create that instruction and that engagement, at folks' homes. Our mental health supports. We have virtual counseling that we offer, and our staff, particularly with our youth initiatives programs, we're meeting kids whether it's in a park or at the community center or at their schools. But depending on where they are, transportation in this, in the region is a challenge, right? Our shelter is, in Manassas, and there's not a public, transportation option. We have a bus that comes twice a week, so we try to help, navigate that and connect folks to other transportation resources. But, we really try our best to work with folks to meet them where they are and how they are. And providing, yes, formerly known as the clock towers, their story. That's right. Providing, you know, different kinds of supports and resources. But that is a challenge, I think, for a lot of folks. And I wonder if you guys see that too within like your senior populations too, just that isolation of how reliable is the public transportation in this area.
Well, one of the biggest services we provide is
Yeah,
rides.
yeah,
So people,
yeah,
provide a lot of rides.
yeah.
You talked about providing things like in-home child support services.
Mhm.
How does something like that get started? I mean, I can't imagine somebody sitting around going, let me call these people and see if they'll send somebody to my house. Is
Yeah.
it social workers? Is it
It's
teachers?
social workers. Yeah, it's social workers. I mean, depending on the area, we have, partnerships with pediatricians' offices, with social workers, with clinics. We'll sit in clinics and and we have a lot of different channels for outreach. Things like, there are central intake lines within the county, and we're one of the resources that folks refer them to if people are looking for that. But that's, I would say strategically, that's something that we think a lot about too, is who are we not serving and who might need access to our services? Are we including, it's interesting to see which demographics show up for which service areas. And so we really try to make sure that we're being as inclusive and expansive in not only how we're doing our outreach efforts, but also meeting people where they are. And so that looks, posting things at the library, connecting to, different community resources. So, yeah, yeah.
And
Yes,
comment.
Carolyn. Yeah, bring that to the thrift store, the jewelry. That would be great. And we have someone who is a buyer for Macy's and does jewelry, so she evaluates it. And if there are, there are things that we sell in the store, if there are other things like gold or other things that are higher value, we will also, we will sell them, and that revenue then goes to support our programs too. So, yeah.
We were helping somebody, a friend of ours passed away, and he had his mother's old jewelry from the
Oh,
60s,
wow.
70s, and I have got a ton. So I
Oh my
will bring it
gosh.
over
Oh,
there.
that would be wonderful. That would be great. That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably
I would say
tomorrow.
that's that's a neat thing that a lot of folks come and you can find some real treasures there. So that would be great. We gratefully accept that.
Now, you mentioned that you had volunteers that spoke, I think you said a dozen different languages. Other than English and Spanish, what are some of the
Mhm.
other languages and, which ones are the biggest groups that you're serving?
Our mental health services are delivered in 12 different languages. So Spanish, Arabic, uh, Urdu, Pashto. We've done a lot of work with the Afghan refugees that have been resettled here in the area in recent years. So finding folks with that. Yes, and mirrors what you see in the public schools, right? Chinese, Vietnamese, Amharic, for with our Ethiopian population, and Arabic and Spanish and French as well. We have a lot of Francophone families in this area as well. Yeah.
So, do you have many people that you've served who've gone on to, you know, have lives and jobs and all that? Do they come back and volunteer?
We do. They come back and volunteer. They sometimes come back and become donors and supporters. And then for some of the transactional services, I mean, unfortunately, we'll never kind of know, what the impact was for our certain parts on the journey. But yeah, particularly in our workforce development program, we have a really strong group of alumni, and it's been pretty amazing. We have speakers come every year to our graduation event, and just seeing the trajectory of their lives. I can share some videos I did a video about 2 years ago, with one of our clients who is a refugee from the Uyghur population in China and didn't speak English, was separated from his family, and he went through our job training program, worked with our staff, and now worked his way up to management positions at Booz Allen, and married and has an 11-year-old daughter, and it's just one of thousands of stories where we were privileged to help kind of support this new start for him. Yeah, and with our young people too, of just helping to create that stability, so then the kids in our child going to preschool so their parents could work and do that. So yeah, it's probably, we, with the thousands of lives that we touch every year, we don't always know the impact, but knowing kind of the fidelity and care that our staff bring to their work, um, you know, we're really proud of the lives we've been able to touch and impact.
All right. Well, it's a little bit after 11.
Great. Well, thank you
Carolyn,
all.
do you know what our next week's speaker is?
Oh, you would put me on the spot like that. No, I have no idea. Sorry, I can find it, but it'll take more time to find it than
Okay.
everybody I'm sure
No.
wants to wait around for. So, um,
Kathleen, I think I can speak for all of us that I'm just blown away by everything you guys are doing.
Thank
That
you.
this organization is out there doing so much. And, we feel like we're grown-ups at, age 12. You guys have been around for more than 100 years. So,
Yeah, it's a tremendous legacy, and thank you for all you're doing. I mean, it's incredible, the power of volunteerism and supports, and we're all doing our part. So this is thank you for your interest, and thank you for all that you're doing for our neighbors as well.
all
Great.
right.
Great.
Well,
Well, I'll be sure to follow back up on Stephen's question, and if there are any other questions or curiosities you all have, please don't hesitate to reach out.